Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Discovery Night. This is the night of the year where we do open our laboratories for you to visit and also let our scientists out of their cages so that you can talk to them. And I encourage you to go and say hi to everyone in Firth Court or in this conference room or all around the university. So my name is Nate. I am a scientist here at the University of Sheffield, and I work in molecular biology and biotechnology, which is a lot of long words to say that I like to tinker with DNA and make loads of really smelly bacteria. But today, I thought I'd give a bit of a talk about what is color, because I use color every day in my research. So my research is something that's really fundamental and really, really important. Now, all scientists say that their research is important, so I'm going to give you the argument as to why my research is important. I research something called photosynthesis. Has anyone heard of the word photosynthesis before? Excellent, there's a few hands up in the back row. Good to hear. So for those who aren't quite clear, photosynthesis is this amazing process that occurs when plants take water from the ground and then carbon dioxide, that's gas that's in the air around us, and using the power of sunshine emitted 96 million miles away, they combine together to produce carbohydrates, that's the sugars that we eat, and also oxygen gas, that's the gases that we need to breathe. So it's a really important process. And it occurs in every single green-leafed plant, grass, anything. Oh, right, so they happen in every single leaf. Now, leaves are made up of hundreds of thousands of these things. They're called cells. Now, this is probably the most accurate diagram you're going to see in this entire presentation. So cells, they do look like this under an optical microscope. You've got a big empty bit in the middle, then you've got a big blobby bit here, that's the nucleus, and then you've got all these other bits of cellular apparatus, we call them. Now, that's a rubbish way of thinking about cells because actually, I like to think about cells as being massive, tiny little biofactories and reactors and incredible things happen inside of it. Hundreds of different processes are occurring inside of a cell. You've got raw materials coming in, you've got transformations happening, you've got chemical processes, engineering, explosions on a very tiny scale, and also you've got products being exported out. Now, those products are then exported around to the different cell and are used throughout it. Now, all of these different things are being run by these little guys called enzymes, or as I like to call them, nanobots. Because this is the original nanomachinery. Don't let chemists tell you that they invented nanotechnology. Biology, not me, but biology and evolution invented nanotechnology. So every single chemical process that occurs within your body is actually being maintained and run by a different type of enzyme or protein. Now, what has this got to do with research and why are we researching it? Well, the planet has a fundamental problem in the fact that we're having a bit of a population crisis. 200 years ago, in the 1800s, we had about 1 billion people on the planet. Fast forward 120, 130 years to between World War I and World War II, we reached 2 billion people. But then we had the baby boomer generation, where we've had a massive increase in the population rate, which means that by this year, we reach 7 billion people. And if things keep going, as they're shown on the red line, we're going to have 11 billion people on this planet. But there's been no increase in space available to grow food. In fact, that's actually decreased. So although chemistry has helped us with fertilizers and other industrialization, we need to think of another way of getting more energy from the sun. And so that's what we do in our group. We are trying to supercharge photosynthesis. We're trying to make plants grow much, much better. Now, what has this got to do with color? You're probably going, I've rabbited on for about 5 minutes about the research. Now, the reason it's really important, why color is so important, is because I use color to interrogate my nanobots. I like to strap them to a bench and shoot colored laser light at them. So there's the link, everyone. This is why I'm talking about color today. So to understand what color is, we need to know a couple of different things. First of all, we need to know what is light, and then we need to know a much easier thing is what is stuff. So let's start with the harder problem first. What is light? So light is part of something that we call the electromagnetic spectrum, which is a fancy way of saying all the different rays and waves that we as scientists know about. From the dangerous gamma rays and X-rays through to the ultraviolet light. That's the light that gives us sunburn on sunny days, but also can make our t-shirts glow. Then we've got the visible region. We'll be coming back to that in a second, followed by the infrared spectrum. Infrared light, that's in our remote controls, which control our tellies. We've got microwaves, they're what we can use to cook our food when we're being lazy, to finally radio waves, and that's what our pop music is piped through on the radio. Now the thing is, all of these things are light. Scientists consider them all light, but we human beings have really special organs called eyes, which allow us to see in the visible spectrum. But to be honest, human beings are a bit rubbish, because did you know we human beings, we're able to see the full rainbow. We're able to see the red, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the indigo. But other animals are able to see different colors. So human beings, when we look at a flower, they're quite normal. It's quite pretty. It's quite yellow. But if we illuminate that flower with UV light, we can see that a whole new spectrum of color appears. And when we look at it through a bee, when we interpret it through a bee's vision, we can see a whole different colors available, and also birds, they're able to see in UV as well. Now, the next picture, I'm sorry, but it's a bit of a selfie, but it's my new favorite thing that I was doing last week, in the fact that I got to hold a snake. Now, this is important because snakes see in the infrared, and infrared is all about heat. So they use heat, they see in heat because what they have to do is they're ectotherms. So they are unable to control their body temperature. Instead, they use their heat vision to be able to seek out hot things. If they're cold, they go to a hot place, and if they're hot, they move to a cold place. Now, on the plasma screen behind me, we can see that's actually a thermal image. And the snake, that's about 20 degrees Celsius compared to me. I'm quite hot at about 34 degrees, so it's actually trying to crawl all over me and steal my body heat. So that's the electromagnetic spectrum, and that's visible light. But what is light? Well, to explain what light is, I thought I'd do a couple of quick demonstrations. The first one is that light, it's a ray or a wave. So if Mel just turns off the lights for a second, and I shoot some smoke into the air, and you can see my laser travels in a straight line through the smoke. So light is a wave or a ray that travels in straight lines and bounces off hard surfaces. But what is a wave? So to do this, I need to actually have 2 volunteers. So the thing is, someone's wearing gloves up at the back, very scientific. This isn't school, this is discovery night, and I've been hanging around people that do lots of explosions, so I'm quite deaf. So if you wouldn't mind just sort of shouting out if you want to volunteer, and the people that shout the loudest, I need 2 volunteers. The people that shout the loudest, they'll come down here to help demonstrate. Fine, young man in the blue glove, come down here. Anyone else? Anyone else who'd like to? Oh, louder, louder, louder! Oh, I can't quite, what? Yes, you in the purple top. Come down to the front. So what I have here is my new favorite toy. This is my Jelly Sweet wave machine. And we are going to just separate it gently. Oh, it's got a little bit stuck there. Now, you guys, if you can hold it at either end, if you hold it really, really tight, you need to hold it really, really tight. If you just step down off that step there, now you need to hold it really, really tight. Pull apart, pull, step back, step back, step back, step back. Now, I'm going to give it a tap here, and we're going to see what happens. Oh, if you hold it a bit tighter, it works better. Okay, let's hold it a bit tighter, and we're going to tap it again, and we're going to see a wave travel down the Jelly Sweet. And this is how waves propagate or move through space. So we're just going to keep doing that, and that is a wave, and that's how waves travel. Thank you very much, guys. You've been excellent volunteers. But the thing is, it all gets a little bit confusing, because although waves are continuous things, travel in straight lines, this is where it all gets a little bit strange, because in fact, they can be considered as tiny little balls of energy. It's the wave-particle duality theory. It's a bit confusing, but bear with me. If one of these tiny little balls of energy, so small that we can't see, has loads of energy, then it appears blue to our eyes. Whereas if these balls have not that much energy at all, are low energy, then they are red to our eyes. And depending on what color something is, depends on how much energy it has. So we're starting to get to the beginning of an answer. It's all about energy. Now, the next thing we need to know about is what is stuff. Now, this one's quite easy, to be honest. Stuff is everything around us. I'm made of stuff. You're made of stuff. This lecture theatre is made of stuff. Everything is made of stuff, basically. And stuff contains chemicals. And what happens is that when light interacts with chemicals, color happens. Now, I thought I'd explain this by using a clip that I filmed in my parents' back garden over Christmas. So I study plants, so let's have a look at a leaf first. So when white light hits a leaf, it's actually made up of all the different colors of the rainbow. It contains red, yellow, green, blue, and indigo light. Now, what plants do is that they have chemicals inside of them that absorb all of these different colors. Now, they absorb the red, the yellow, and the blue, and the indigo, but they don't absorb green. And instead, that green light is then reflected or scattered off of the plant, and it goes into our eyes, where our brain does some very clever chemistry and interprets that as green. The same is true of a red fire hydrant. If we have white light going in, it's actually made up of all the different colors of the rainbow, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, and the red. But in this case, only the red is reflected. All the other colors are absorbed. Now, that red light is reflected into our eyes. But this is where it gets interesting, because black things, they absorb all the colors of the rainbow. They're absorbing all of that energy, which is why dark things heat up on hot, sunny days. Now, I quite like color, and I quite like demonstrations. So I thought I'd demonstrate me changing stuff live on a flower. So I've got some flowers here. They're quite pretty chrysanthemums, but they're not very colorful. You would agree they're not very colorful. What I've got here is another chemical, and I'm just going to spray my flowers, and we'll see that they go purple. Because what I've done is I've actually put a chemical inside of this water which alters the color of the flowers. And that's altering the chemical nature, which alters what light it absorbs, which produces different colors. I quite like that demonstration. Okay. Not a big round of applause. Apparently I have to set things on fire. Okay, so how do we make color? Well, the easiest way is to actually heat things up. It's a process called Blackbody Radiation. And this is a demonstration of Blackbody Radiation. Could we just have the lights off, please? It's very complicated, very scientific. It's lighting a candle. There's a round of applause. Yes! Thank you very much. So what's going on is the heat is vaporizing the wax molecules. Those wax molecules are then able to catch on fire, and then it's a propagating reaction in the fact that when things get excited, they produce colored light. But to be honest, that's a bit of a rubbish demonstration. Should we demonstrate blackbody radiation in a slightly more dramatic and over-the-top fashion? Yeah, I think we should. So I'm going to blow that out, and then I'd like everyone to meet Mel over here. Mel's my stage manager and person who's very good with a fire extinguisher. Now, I'm going to demonstrate blackbody radiation by setting myself on fire. Now, blackbody radiation means that there's lots of heat, so I'm going to protect myself by covering myself in large amounts of cooling water. This is very important because otherwise I will burn myself. Now, I'm going to say, guys, never, ever, 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 ever try this at home or in the shed or in the garden. I have seen it go terribly wrong with myself. So let's just go a bit more bubbles, bit more. We're going to get whole loads of very flammable bubbles. So this is a very flammable gas that's going into my dish soap here, in effect making fire bubbles. And then what I'm going to do, I think that's enough now. No, that's probably, yeah, that's enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to protect myself a little bit more, because that's quite a few bubbles. And then I'm going to pick up a whole scoop full of bubbles, and I'm going to need a countdown, okay? And we're going to do this quite quickly. First of all, Mel's going to do pre-flight safety checks, because the bubbles underneath are the ones that hurt, Mel. Thanks. Now, are we okay? Oh, good. Okay. So can we have a countdown from 3? Okay? So 3, 2, oh, hold on. I've just realized I haven't got my safety equipment on. Oh, no. Terrible. Let's get a few more bubbles. All right. So should we do that again? Right, countdown in 3, 2, 1. Setting my hands on fire, like so. Should I do it again? Yeah. Like. So yeah, more protective water, because it's actually really quite hot, and if you don't have protective water, you come out with lots of scars. I don't know whether anyone saw BBC Breakfast last week when we were at the Bang Fair. We had a bit of an accident when someone didn't have protective water on them, and then it was all very, very sad. Okay, so if we just keep pushing the water through. Are we running out of gas?
I think we might.
Okay, hold on, let me do some. There's technique in this.
You're both trying to now.
There we go. Loads of big bubbles. That's the ones I want to see. Right, safety glasses on again, protecting myself. And then like this. Oh, they're rubbish. Okay, underneath, all the scary ones underneath, they're the ones that really do hurt. Got quite a lot of fire there. So in 3, 2, 1, setting my hands on fire again. Mel's a bit timid. Yeah, get the other light. Sorry, everyone. Technical issues.
Ready?
Yeah, go for it. That's bigger, that's better. Okay. And my hands are actually fine. So that's one making light. We don't need the lights on for the next bit. But there's other ways of making light, and one of them is to pass electricity through things. So over here in my flasks over here, they're filled with things called light-emitting diodes, which are fancy light bulbs, unlike normal light bulbs, the old-fashioned light bulbs which heated things up to create blackbody radiation. These ones, they're filled with really special materials called semiconductors, and depending on the chemistry of the materials, when you pass energy through them in the form of electricity, that can then be converted into light. So LEDs, they're used in your smartphones, in your TVs, and in really basic electronics as well, and you might have seen them before. Now, I'm going to run around here. There is a third way of making light that I really like. Who likes these things? Who likes these? Yeah, you like? All right, I'm going to start chucking them out in the audience. Try not to get them in your eye. Pass one over there. So these things are called glow sticks, and they are filled with a whole load of chemicals. Oh, hello. Up here. These are filled with chemicals, and they're filled with something inside of a glass vial called hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide, when it reacts with all the other chemicals in there, in the glow stick, I'm just going to sort of, should I just throw them? See what happens. Throw them around a bit. Now, when the hydrogen peroxide comes into contact with all the other chemicals within the glow stick, it starts off a whole chain of reactions until a dye molecule, in this case a green dye molecule, is excited with energy, and then it gives out energy itself in the form of light. I'll just pass that down there. So those are 3 ways of making, that's 2 ways of making light, but my favorite way of making light, you might have noticed, is all about fire. So I'm just going to prepare my laboratory to make it a little bit safer. So what I have here is a way of making colored fire. This is my flaming rainbow. Now, it contains a whole load of different salts. Now, these are metal salts which you won't be able to find on your shelf at home, except that one, which is just table salt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to light them on fire like this. And as they heat up, we're going to see something quite amazing happen in the fact that we're going to produce loads of different color. So as they heat up, they will start reacting with the salts, and we should get some colored light in a second. There we go. So the sodium has started, that's the orange one here. We've got copper here, that's producing the green light. The potassium, it will start to go slightly lilac. This is calcium down this end, this produces a lovely flex. The strontium's going a nice deep red color, and the lithium is going a pink color. Now, this is my favorite way of making light, because to explain it, what I need to do is to talk about cookies. So I've got a cookie here. Can we just have the lights on a little bit, actually? I've got a cookie here. Cookies. Excuse me. Really tasty. And also full of loads of sugar and fats. And those things give us human beings energy. It means that we can run around and do loads of exercise. But if we give energy to small things, either through electricity or through chemical reactions or through heat, something else happens in the fact that the molecules do something a little bit quantum. They get very excited, but they can't stay excited for too long. And when they relax, they release energy that they've had stored inside them in the form of light. So that is basically the answer to the question, in the fact that color is energy. And we human beings were able to see energy in the form of colored light. And we use this understanding of science and that understanding of energy every day in our research to try and understand and probe my nanomaterials. And I think that's pretty amazing. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. That basically brings me to a rather fiery end to my presentation. I hope you have a really good discovery night and see more things out there. Thank you very much.